Welcome to Vanguard, where humans aren't the underdogs. We're the endgame. Enjoy the journey. The alarm began as a low, trembling wail, a warning tone the peripheral monitoring stations had not used for centuries. It rose in pitch, echoing through the crystalline corridors like the cry of some ancient beast awakened from extinction. Junior technician Valrin dropped the data tablets he had been organizing and spun toward the sensor arrays. His four crystalline eyes widened, their facets refracting the emergency red light that flooded the chamber. The gravitational sensors were spasming, not fluctuating, not glitching, spasming, like reality itself was seizing in place. "Senior monitor," Valrin's voice cracked like shattered glass. "You need to see this." Thexila drifted forward, her crystalline form hovering above the ground. As a Lumini, her body hummed with soft internal energy, casting shifting patterns of blue and violet across the consoles. She expected a faulty sensor, maybe a rogue asteroid swarm. She did not expect what she saw. Space should not ripple. Not like that. Not in waves large enough to distort readings across light hours. "What is causing this?" she murmured. Valrin swallowed. I don't know. Run diagnostics on all instruments. Priority, Alpha 1. 20 minutes passed. 20 minutes of rising dread. 20 minutes of Valrin's 6 fingers dancing frantically across interfaces, while Thexila watched the data accumulate into something horrifyingly consistent. Finally, Valrin whispered, "All systems functioning perfectly, Senior Monitor. No errors." Thexila's internal light dimmed in a way no Lumini wished to feel. Terror. The readings were real. The object moving toward Concordat space was approximately, she paused, recalculated, paused again. 15 kilometers, she said numbly. Civilizations had died for building vessels 1/10 that size. No known species constructed such monstrosities. Even the legendary dreadnoughts of the ancient precursor era, myths spoken in trembling tones, were estimated to be only 4 or 5 kilometers long. This thing dwarfed them. "This cannot be right," Thexila said, but her own voice betrayed her. "Send emergency notification to the Central Council. Priority Alpha. Now." Valrin didn't hesitate. His mandibles clicked in fear as he transmitted the message using the highest emergency protocol the Concordat possessed, one that had not been used in 8 centuries. "May the ancient light protect us," Thexila whispered. Across the galaxy on the diplomatic hub world of Sanctuary, the Concordat Council convened an emergency session. The great circular chamber, large enough to host 200 species, hummed with tension. The insectoid creche delegation chittered in agitation, their antennae quivering uncontrollably. The aquatic delph floated inside their water spheres, releasing frantic streams of bubbles that drifted like panic pearls. Even the stoic saurians, reptilian beings famed for patience, showed anxiety, tails twitching against the polished floor. High Counselor Masson, a Sarian whose silvered scales marked nearly 4 centuries of life, stood at the center of the chamber. His voice was steady, but beneath that calm was the unmistakable tremor of someone confronting the unknown. "Members of the Concordat," he began, "we face an unprecedented situation. An object of colossal scale is approaching our territory. We do not know its purpose. We do not know its nature. But we must understand it before panic consumes our people." A creche commander, Zixthar, sprang to his feet, mandibles clicking loudly. "The ancient texts of my people speak of world eaters, vessels so vast they devoured whole planets. This matches their descriptions." Murmurs rippled across the chamber. "Commander Zixthar," Meson warned, "fear without knowledge is—" "No!" Zixthar snapped. "Fear is rational when faced with extinction." The Delph delegation bubbled louder. The Lumini counselors flickered in distress. Waves of tension washed over the chamber like heat from a dying star. Suddenly, a new holographic feed appeared. Raw data from Deep Space Scouts. More readings, more confirmation. The object was real. its size unmistakable, its course deliberate. Concordat civilians began receiving emergency broadcasts within the hour. Billions watched in paralyzed fear as the news spread. Parents pulled their children close. Ancient bunkers long sealed were reopened. Defense fleets, unused for 8 full centuries, powered their engines for the first time since the Age of Reconciliation. The galaxy had known peace for generations. Now something from beyond its borders threatened everything. Amid this storm, Ambassador Captain Zarek was summoned. Zarek was Sarian, not yet old, but seasoned enough to know the weight of duty. He possessed a calm, strategic mind that the High Council trusted more than any other. High Counselor Meeson met him in private chambers, voice low. You will take a scout fleet of 12 vessels. Your mission, first contact and assessment. Under no circumstances will you fire unless fired upon. Information, not war. Zarek bowed his head. I understand. No, Meeson said gravely. You fear you understand. But the truth is that we are blind. And this thing, this behemoth, is large enough to crush our ignorance if we misstep. Zarek hesitated. If it is hostile, then retreat, Meeson said firmly. You are not to be a martyr. The safety of your crews and the survival of the Concordat comes first. He placed a clawed hand on Zarek's shoulder. I chose you because you think before you act. The galaxy may depend on that in the coming days. As Zarek's fleet prepared for departure, the Concordat's greatest scientists worked tirelessly. One among them, Dr. Shinvara, a luminescent Lumini astrophysicist, made the breakthrough. She was tracing the energy distribution across the vessel's hull when she froze. This wasn't weapons output. It wasn't propulsion. It was life support for millions. No, her calculations corrected her. For billions. This isn't a warship, she whispered. It's a migrating civilization. Her report hit the council like a meteor. Suddenly the debate shifted. No longer, is it a threat? But now, what does a wandering civilization want? What do billions of refugees mean for our worlds? Can we afford to share our territory? Panic, politics, fear, compassion, logic, survival instincts, all erupted in a storm of conflicting agendas. And through it all, Zarek boarded his flagship, the Concordant Voice, and stared into the star-flecked dark where the stranger awaited. As engines ignited, as the fleet accelerated toward the unknown, Zarek whispered a single thought. This will redefine history, because one truth had solidified across the galaxy. This was no ship. This was a world, and it was coming. The Concordant Voice slipped into faster-than-light travel, with a deep, resonant hum that vibrated through its metallic bones. Ambassador Captain Zarek watched the swirling tunnel of warped space-time from the command viewport, his mind burdened with the knowledge that every second brought them closer to the unknown civilization hurtling toward their borders. Behind him, the bridge crew worked in strained silence. The Delph communications officer bubbled anxiously inside her water-filled suit. The Kresh tactical officer tapped his mandibles in a nervous rhythm. The Lumini navigation specialist flickered with fluctuating internal light. Even the machines seemed tense. Status, Zarek ordered. All ships in formation, replied Lieutenant Saralith, the Delph. No anomalous readings yet. Zarek nodded, but tension coiled in his chest. He had led diplomatic missions before. Border disputes, peace treaties, cultural negotiations. But never had he confronted something so vast, so utterly beyond known precedent. A 15-kilometer vessel was not a ship. It was something else, a world, a statement, a potential threat so monumental it defied imagination. And yet, Dr. Shinvara's data echoed in his mind. Life support for billions. Who were these beings? And why had they abandoned their home? During the fleet's journey, new information from deep space scanners trickled through. It wasn't much, but it confirmed one thing. The vessel was slowing. Not aggressively, not evasively, just enough for intercept, as if it wanted to be found. Zarek shared this data with the Council, and Sanctuary erupted into chaos once more. Rumors spiraled across civilian networks. Some said the world ship sought a new home. Others whispered it had consumed another species and was continuing its hunt. A few fringe theorists claimed it was a precursor relic, awakened after eons. But the most disturbing reports came from independent traders on the fringes. A shadow bigger than moons. I saw windows, thousands of them, like cities on its surface. Multiple energy cores. Too many, too synchronized. It moved with purpose, like a migration, not a war march. Even seasoned explorers spoke with a tremor in their voices. The galaxy had become a chorus of speculation, fear, awe, and anticipation. When the concordant voice dropped out of FTL, Zarek inhaled sharply. The Titan-class vessel was still some distance away, a dark smudge against the starfield. Impossibly distant, yet undeniably massive. Begin long-range scans, Zarek instructed. Yes, Captain. Shinvara's new scanning technique, refined during their journey, began feeding data to the bridge. She had transmitted the methodology before they left, and it allowed them to penetrate the outer hull layer. The results were staggering. Inside the behemoth were multiple atmospheric zones, hydroponic megastructures, power grids sprawled like planetary veins, several gravity-modified districts, and unmistakable signs of population density. Zarek's breath caught. There are lights inside, Saralith whispered. Tiny ones, thousands. Windows, Zerk murmured. Cities. As they approached the designated intercept point, the Titan-class vessel performed its first deliberate maneuver. It slowed to a complete, controlled halt. Across the entire Concordat, billions of viewers collectively held their breath as the massive silhouette solidified into view. Zarek had seen megastructures before. He had witnessed aberrant cosmic phenomena, but nothing prepared him for this. The ship emerged from the darkness like a drifting continent forged of metal and will. Its hull wasn't sleek or elegant. It was layered, armored, built for endurance rather than beauty. Huge engine arrays glowed faintly at the rear, like dormant suns waiting to ignite. Structures protruded from its sides, some cylindrical, some angular, connected by lattices of reinforced plates and conduits thick as towers. Lights glittered across its hull in patterns that could only belong to living spaces. Impossible, someone whispered. No species builds like this. Too big. It's a generation arc, a planetary refuge, a weapon. The bridge buzzed with awe and panic. Zarek forced himself to stand firm. Prepare transmission, he ordered. First contact protocol. Mathematical sequence followed by chemical notation. Yes, Captain. Moments later, the message pulsed across the void. Seconds passed. Minutes. The crew shifted, tension spiraling upward. Do you think they understand us? Saralith asked. If they built that, Zarek answered, they understand much more than we do. Then, a ping, followed by a flood of data. Perfectly mirrored mathematical sequences. Chemical patterns matched to a margin of error near zero. A rudimentary linguistic matrix. They're responding, the communications officer said breathlessly. They're matching our format exactly. The bridge fell silent. The Titan-class vessel understood them. Powerful, intelligent, and willing to communicate. Captain, the officer whispered, we have incoming video signal. The screen flickered, then stabilized. A face appeared, and the galaxy changed. The being was bipedal, symmetrical, remarkably organic. Smooth skin, warm brown in color. Eyes forward-facing, predator eyes, but filled with something softer. She wore a dark uniform with emblems Zarek couldn't decipher, but her posture radiated authority, calm, and exhaustion. When she spoke, her voice, though untranslated at first, was steady and earnest. Within seconds, the Concordat translation matrix layered meaning over sound. I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Nations Space Corps vessel Indomitable. We come in peace. We seek safe passage and, if possible, friendship. The bridge exhaled collectively. Zarek leaned forward. I am Ambassador Captain Zarek of the Galactic Concordat. Your vessel is unlike anything we have seen. We wish to understand your purpose. Chen's expression shifted. Relief, fear, hope all intertwining. Our star is dying, she said. We built 12 Titan-class vessels to save as many lives as we could. The Indomitable carries 50 million souls seeking a new home among the stars. 50 million. The number struck the bridge like a spear. 50 million inhabitants on a single vessel. Every Concordat ship ever built combined did not house that many sapiens. Zarek struggled to find his voice. Your species must be remarkable builders, he finally said. But why arm a refuge ship with such extensive weaponry? Chen's face fell slightly. Because we didn't know what we'd find out here, she said quietly. We hoped for friends, but we prepared for danger. The honesty was disarming. Zarek felt a flicker of admiration. Suddenly, alarms shrieked across the concordant voice. A Kresh pilot, Tixall, had panicked. The Titan-class vessel's scanning beam swept across his small fighter, and instinct overcame discipline. He locked weapons. Zarek reacted instantly. Tixall, stand down. That is a direct order. But fear is stronger than training. His finger hovered. The Titan-class vessel detected the lock immediately. Its weapon systems powered up, quietly, efficiently, terrifyingly. Dozens of point defense turrets rotated. Energy signatures surged across its hull. The galaxy froze on the edge of annihilation. Before Zarek could speak, the image of Captain Chen vanished, replaced by tactical readouts, but not from the Concordat. The Indomitable had opened its targeting systems. Saralith whimpered. The Kresh officer recoiled. Even Zarek felt his breath catch. He looked into the abyss of possible extinction. And then a soft voice returned. Captain Chen appeared again, speaking urgently to someone off-screen. Then she looked directly at Zarek. Ambassador Captain, we detected a weapons lock. Was that intentional? In that moment, Zarek understood her restraint, her fear, her responsibility, and he made the choice history would remember. No, he said, it was not intentional. It was fear. The pilot acted without orders. I offer my apologies. Chen exhaled, visibly relieved. Fear, she said softly, is something I understand. And with a single gesture, the Indomitable powered down. Across the galaxy, billions watched this moment replayed again and again. The instant where two civilizations nearly entered war, and one captain's honesty saved them. Chen straightened. In the interest of reducing tension, she said, I invite you and a small delegation aboard the Indomitable. Let us show you who we are. The council screamed protest through Zarek's comms. But when he looked at Chen's face, he saw something unmistakable. Desperation, hope, a plea for trust. He nodded. We accept. And the door to humanity opened. The shuttle that carried Ambassador Captain Zarek and his chosen delegation detached from the concordant voice with a gentle shudder. Through the transparent hull dome, the Indomitable loomed ahead, an impossible wall of dark alloy and illuminated structures stretching farther than the eye could follow. Even at rest, it radiated an aura of profound purpose. The delegation remained silent as they approached. Even the usually talkative Delph scientist, Saralith, floated motionless in her sphere. Velmar, the Kresh representative chosen specifically for his moderated temperament, clacked his mandibles in muted awe. This docking bay, he murmured, is large enough to swallow a cruiser. Zarek could only nod. The bay ahead was a colossal aperture carved into the vessel's flank, rimmed by reinforced plates thicker than the armor of most warships. Massive magnetic guidance rails hummed with energy, aligning their small shuttle with a precision that bordered on graceful intimidation. As the shuttle entered, Zarek felt as if he were being swallowed by a mechanical god. The docking chamber within was a cathedral of engineering, vaulted ceilings, structural beams the size of city towers, and rows of human technicians guiding them in with fluid motions. The entire chamber vibrated with a calm, ordered energy. When the shuttle finally touched down and pressurization completed, the hatch slid open. Captain Sarah Chen stood waiting. This time, she wasn't merely a face on a screen. She was real, solid, poised, and powerful in a quiet way. A squad of human honor guards stood behind her, uniforms crisp, expressions disciplined but approachable. Their posture radiated both hospitality and the underlying awareness that they protected 50 million souls. Chen stepped forward and extended her hand, a gesture the translation systems identified as greeting and respect. Zarek hesitated only a heartbeat before mirroring the gesture. Their hands touched. The galaxy shifted. "Welcome aboard the Indomitable, Ambassador Captain Zarek," Chen said with a warm, controlled smile. "We're honored to have you." "And we are honored by your invitation," Zarek replied. Velmar clicked politely. Sarilith bubbled a greeting. Dr. Shinvara's crystalline body glowed with curious reverence. "Please," Chen said, "come. There's much to show you." As they walked, Zarek studied the corridors. They were broad, far broader than any Concordat vessel. Designed not for soldiers or engineers, but for families. For millions of people moving day to day. Human children darted past, laughing, chasing each other through the wide hallways without fear. Some stopped and stared wide-eyed at the alien delegation. A few waved. Zarek found himself waving back, unsure why the gesture felt so grounding. "This is Residential District 7, Chen explained, one of 23. Each district houses around 2 million people." Velmar's mandibles parted in disbelief. 2 million? Chen nodded. "Our first priority was ensuring people could maintain communities, even in the void." As they walked past wide windows overlooking lush atriums, Zarek saw people strolling, sitting together, living ordinary lives aboard an extraordinary ark. "You're not just passengers," Zarek said quietly. "You're a civilization in motion." "That's one way to see it," Chen replied. They reached an engineering hub next, a vast chamber alive with workers, holographic schematics, and pulsing conduits flooding this section with controlled energy. Shinvara moved closer to the reactor shielding. 17 fusion cores and over 100 secondary systems. How do you stabilize this? Chen grinned slightly. With caution and a lot of sleepless nights. Zarek could almost feel Shinvara's awe radiating like heat. The Indomitable wasn't merely large, it was impossibly sophisticated. But then a tremor rippled through the deck. A soft one, barely noticeable, but Zarek felt it. The lights flickered for half a second. Human voices over the intercom spoke calmly, swiftly. Teams moved with trained ease. Chen tapped her wrist device. "Report, minor calibration surge on Reactor 12, came the reply. "Stabilized in under 3 seconds. No risk." "Good work," she said. The delegation watched her, saw how she balanced authority with trust, how she did not panic, even though a single reactor failure could have been catastrophic. Zarek understood something then. These people lived daily with the knowledge that their survival relied on constant vigilance. Their calm wasn't ignorance, it was mastery. Their next stop was the marketplace. Warm light, aromas of cooked food, humans bartering, laughing, living. A child tugged on her mother's sleeve and pointed at Sarilith in awe. The mother gently guided her forward. "Can she breathe water?" the child asked. Sarilith bubbled happily. "I can, little one." The child beamed. Chen smiled softly. "The markets help keep life feeling normal." Velmar nodded slowly. "When we first detected your ship, I imagined monsters." "You're not the first to think that," Chen said gently. When they reached the viewport overlooking the ship's exterior weapon placements, Zarek braced himself. It was time for answers. "That," Velmar said, pointing to a massive turret, "is a weapon." "A tool," Chen corrected calmly. "Most of what you think are weapons are point defense or mining lasers. A ship this big attracts a lot of space debris." Zarek studied the array. Now that he was looking carefully, their placement was strange. Good for coverage, but not for aggression. They were defensive, protective. Still, Zarich said carefully. They can be used offensively. Chen's expression hardened with honesty. If we have to defend ourselves, yes. But harming others is the last thing we want. Her tone carried a sincerity that pulled at Zarich's instincts. They walked on. And then they reached the memorial hall. The room was dark, lit only by millions of softly glowing holographic faces floating like silent stars. Each face flickered with a short biography. Chen stepped forward. 4 billion, she whispered. 4 billion people we couldn't save when our sun began to fail. We had 30 years warning. Not enough time. Not enough resources. Not enough ships. The aliens followed her through the rows of light. Farmers, children, elders, soldiers, scientists, artists. Lives that had ended because the universe had not been kind. Zarek swallowed the thickness in his throat. Velmar's mandibles drooped with quiet sorrow. Seralith released a stream of gentle bubbles. Chen's voice wavered. We remember them because forgetting would mean they died for nothing. For the first time since the meeting began, her composure cracked. Only slightly, but enough. Zarek spoke softly. Your people carry a burden few could endure. Chen turned her gaze to the flickering names. We carry them because we must. The hall went silent except for their footsteps and the hum of memorial lights. The hibernation deck came next. It was a cavern so vast it resembled a manufactured valley extending into the horizon. Rows upon rows of suspension pods glowed in soft blue. Each pod contained a sleeping human, still, peaceful, trusting. 30 million in rotation, Chen explained. 10 years awake, 30 asleep. It's how we make our supplies last centuries if needed. Seralith pressed her palms to one of the pods, watching the sleeping figure inside. They trust you completely, she whispered, to sleep while you lead them through darkness. Chen placed her hand gently on the curved glass of another pod. They trust each other. That's how we survived this far. Zarek watched her in silence, absorbing every truth she shared. This ship was not a war machine. It was a monument to endurance, to sacrifice, to a species refusing extinction. But the moment of peace did not last. A sharp alarm blared from Chen's wrist device. She checked the message, and her expression shifted instantly from soft remembrance to sharp alertness. Ambassador Captain, she said, we're receiving distress signals from your escort fleet. Zarek's blood ran cold. What kind of signals? Chen inhaled slowly. Hostile ships, 40 of them. Pirates, they're engaging your vessels. Zarich's heart hammered. My ships can't handle that kind of force. Chen's gaze hardened. The same calm steel Zarich had seen during the false alarm earlier. Then we help, she said. But no argument. Your people came here in peace. We protect friends. She turned sharply to her officers. All stations, battle readiness, non-lethal protocols. Move. The indomitable awakened, not with the roar of a warship preparing to kill, but with the focused precision of a guardian preparing to defend. Zarek realized something in that moment. The galaxy had feared humanity's power, but they had never truly considered their compassion. And that was more terrifying than any weapon. The klaxon faded into a steady pulse as the indomitable shifted into combat readiness. Red emergency bands illuminated along the floors, guiding civilians towards safety zones while defense crews moved with disciplined efficiency. Yet despite the urgency, the ship did not feel panicked. It felt prepared, as if it had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times. Ambassador Captain Zarek and the alien delegation followed Captain Chen back through the massive corridors, now alive with coordinated activity. Families moved swiftly but calmly. Security personnel directed foot traffic with gestures honed through drills. Technicians secured hatches and recalibrated environmental stabilizers. It struck Zarich that this ship, housing millions, handled crisis more smoothly than most nations. These people, he whispered, they live with danger constantly. Chen overheard. We do, but fear doesn't rule us. Not anymore. They reached a vantage deck with transparent walls overlooking the stars. In the distance, flashes of weapons fire flickered around the Concordat escort fleet, tiny sparks against the backdrop of the void. Zarek felt his scales tighten with dread. The pirates are attempting boarding maneuvers, he realized aloud. Chen nodded. They always target the smaller ships first. Less risk. Velmar clacked his mandibles anxiously. We must intervene immediately. And we will, Chen said firmly, but not until we know exactly what we're dealing with. Indomitable doesn't charge blindly. Her voice was steel. The alien delegation followed her through a towering blast door into one of the ship's command subcenters. Holographic displays projected real-time data, pirate fleet configurations, Concordat ship statuses, energy signatures, and threat trajectories. Zarek observed the humans at their stations, each focused, calm, and utterly in sync. Status, Chen commanded. Tactical grid online. Point defense primed. Rail systems aligning. Civilian districts secured. Medical bays preparing for triage overflow. Engineering on standby for external assistance. Chen turned to Zarek. I need full transparency. What armaments do your escorts carry? Zarek swallowed, embarrassed. Mostly defensive shielding, modest plasma cutters, nothing that can repel a fleet this size. Chen nodded grimly, as if she already knew. Then their survival depends on us. Show me the agricultural decks, Chen said suddenly to her officers. Zarek blinked, startled by the shift. During a battle? Yes, she replied, because you need to understand what we're protecting. The transition was jarring. One moment surrounded by tactical holograms, the next riding a transit platform that moved them deep into the ship's core. As it descended, the air grew warmer, richer. When the doors opened, Zarek stepped into a different universe. Artificial sunlight poured down from a vast dome high above. Fields of golden grain rippled like liquid wind. Forests stretched into the distance. Streams trickled along stone paths carved with care. Human workers tended crops alongside automated machinery. It was a world. A real world. Welcome, Chen said softly, to Agricultural Deck 3, one of 12. Zarek could only stare. Welmar's mandibles hung open. This is a biosphere. It's life, Saralith bubbled in awe. Chen nodded. We built these to feed millions, but also to keep hope alive. People need green spaces. Families need parks. Children need to feel the sky, even if it's artificial. A flock of small, engineered birds swept overhead, chirping. Without these decks, Chen continued, we'd lose more than bodies. We'd lose what makes survival worth it. As they walked, they passed a small house nestled among rows of fruit trees. Children played in the yard, laughing, climbing tree branches, completely at ease despite the battle brewing outside. Zarek stared at them. You let civilians live here, among the farms? Some families can't tolerate metal corridors, Chen said, so we let them build homes here. As long as they maintain the systems and help with harvests, they're welcome. Dr. Shinvara's crystalline form glowed brighter. You recreated ecosystems inside a starship. That shouldn't be possible. Chen smiled, but it was a sad smile. Most of this ship shouldn't be possible, but desperation builds wonders. They continued toward the far end of the agricultural deck, crossing a bridge that overlooked a deep ravine filled with dense vegetation. Down below, Zarek saw structures, homes, gardens, winding paths. It was chaos and order woven into something astonishing. Velmar slowed his pace. Captain Chen, he said quietly, when we first detected your vessel, I believed you were devourers of worlds, that you brought doom. Chen stopped and faced him. And now? Velmar lowered his head. Now I see that you carry your world with you, because you had no other choice. Chen placed a gentle hand on his chitin-plated shoulder, a gesture of trust. You weren't wrong to fear, only wrong to assume. Velmar nodded, emotion rippling through his antennae. Chen guided them out of the agricultural deck and toward a quieter section of the vessel. The air grew cooler, dimmer, Holographic lights pulsed slowly. "This," she said softly as they entered a broad hall, "is our memorial." Zarek felt the reverence in her voice before he saw it. The memorial hall was a cosmos of sorrow and remembrance. Holographic faces floated in the darkness, millions upon millions of them, each paired with a name, an age, a short biography. Some were young, some elderly, some smiling, some solemn, all gone. "These are the 4 billion who didn't survive the fall of Earth," Chen whispered. The alien delegation walked among the floating lights. Each one a story ended prematurely. Zarech felt something heavy settle on his chest. Shinvara dimmed to a deep, mournful blue. Seralith released slow, somber bubbles. Velmar's mandibles trembled with empathy. Chen swallowed hard. "We built 12 Titan-class ships," she said. "We saved as many as we could, but Earth was dying faster than we could build." A small hologram flickered, an elderly woman holding a child. Chen stopped, her breath catching. "My mother," she murmured. She gave her seat to someone else. Zarek bowed his head. "I am deeply sorry." Chen closed her eyes. "We honor them by moving forward. We survive so their sacrifice means something." The hall was silent except for the quiet hum of holographic starlight. Their final destination was the hibernation decks. Massive doors slid open to reveal an endless plain of stasis pods arranged in concentric arcs. Cool, blue light washed over the group. Zarek felt small before its enormity. 30 million people sleep here, Chen explained. "We rotate cycles, 10 years awake, 30 asleep. It stretches our supplies, ensures shared burden." Seralith moved closer to a pod, watching the sleeping human inside. "To surrender so much of one's life for the survival of the whole. It's trust," Chen said. "Trust that we'll reach safety. Trust that others will guide us while we sleep." "And if you never find a home," Shinvara asked softly. Chen looked over the sea of motionless figures. "Then we keep going. As long as this ship breathes, we search." The weight of her conviction struck Zarech like gravity. Before he could speak, a voice crackled through Chen's communicator. "Captain, pirates have breached the Harmony's light. Concordat casualties rising." Zarech's eyes widened. "We must return, my people." Chen raised a hand. "We're already moving." The deck became a blur as she turned and walked with urgency, her strides accelerating. Zarech and the others followed. The Titan-class ship shifted around them, lights dimming, engines repositioning, internal systems rebalancing power. The Indomitable was becoming a war machine, not by nature, but by necessity. As they approached a lift platform, Chen spoke without looking back. "Ambassador Captain, once you see what we do next, you'll understand who we are." Zarek felt a chill, not fear, anticipation. The lift doors closed. Chen stood tall, resolute. "Let's go save your people." And the Titan-class ship surged forward into battle. The lift shot upward through the spine of the Indomitable, carrying Captain Sarah Chen, Ambassador Captain Zarek, and the alien delegation toward the primary command bridge. Mechanical hums reverberated around them, vibrations rippling through the metal like the heartbeat of a colossus waking from slumber. Outside, the Titan-class ship angled itself with slow, deliberate grace, massive thrusters rotating, engines cycling through energy states that dwarfed anything the Concordat had ever engineered. It was not the movement of a warship. It was the movement of something built to safeguard lives. And now, it was moving to save others. The doors hissed open, revealing the bridge, a vast chamber shaped like an amphitheater of light and steel. Stations circled the central command platform, where holograms projected real-time battlefield data in spiraling layers. Human officers worked with laser focus. Tactical grids rotated, targeting streams updated. Power arcs mapped flows across weapon systems, shields, and structural supports. Zarek felt his breath catch. This was not the chaos of panic seen on lesser vessels. This was precision, controlled, coordinated, deadly. "Status," Chen commanded. "Pirate fleet count, 42 ships, her tactical officer reported. Light cruisers, raiders, and 2 capital-class carriers. The Harmony's light has been boarded, another officer called. The Concordant voice is taking fire, but shields are holding. Other Concordat vessels sustaining scattered damage, requesting immediate intervention. Chen nodded grimly. Plot a course to put us between the pirates and the Concordat fleet. Yes, Captain. The Indomitable rotated, positioning itself like a shield. Zarek had seen ships maneuver before. He had never seen something this massive move with such fluid power, like a drifting mountain responding to a subtle breeze. Captain Chen, Zarek said quietly, I ask this with gratitude, but why risk yourselves? These pirates came for us, not for you. Chen turned to him with a gaze that carried oceans of loss and resolve. Because you trusted us enough to board our ship. Because your pilots fought to protect us earlier, even in fear. Because we know what it's like to be hunted and helpless. We help because we choose to. No bravado, no arrogance, just truth. Zarek understood then why humans had survived the death of their world. Visual on pirate fleet, Tactical announced. The hologram expanded to show the battlefield. Pirate ships swarmed like predatory beasts, darting, weaving, surrounding Concordat escorts. 3 Concordat vessels were limping, shields failing. The Harmony's light was locked in the jaws of a raider pair, docking clamps fused to its hull. From the largest pirate capital ship, a gravel-voiced transmission crackled through comms. This is Commander Cross, the voice snarled. That behemoth's technology is ours. Disable it and take the aliens alive. Sarah felt her jaw clench. Open a channel. A hollow window appeared, showing a scarred human face, pale-eyed, cold. He sneered. You're a long way from home, Chen. You're attacking diplomatic vessels, Chen said. Withdraw now and... You'll what? Cross spat. You'll fire? You've got refugees on board. You won't risk them. Chen inhaled once, slow, controlled. We don't start fights, Cross, she said, but we end them. She cut the channel. Tactical, she said. Engage non-lethal protocols across all systems. Yes, Captain. Zarek blinked. Non-lethal? Against 42 warships? Chen's expression hardened. We're not murderers, not even today. The pirate fleet fired first. Missiles erupted from their hulls in a storm of incandescent trails streaking toward the Indomitable. Plasma torpedoes ignited. Railgun slugs tore through space. It was a wall of death. Point defense, Chen said calmly. What happened next stunned even the humans. Hundreds of tiny ports opened across the Indomitable's hull, each one revealing a point defense turret. Minuscule compared to the ship's size, but horrifying in number and coordination. The turrets spun, locked, fired. Beams of focused laser light crisscrossed space in a dazzling web. It was not random, but a controlled ballet. Each shot precise, deliberate, unwavering. Missile after missile detonated in miniature blossoms of fire. Plasma torpedoes dissolved into vapor. Railgun slugs were intercepted mid-flight, vaporizing instantly. Not a single projectile reached the Indomitable. The bridge remained silent. Then Velmar whispered, Your defense grid is flawless. Chen kept her gaze forward. We've had to practice. Some pirate ships accelerated, rushing forward to close the distance. Others flanked, attempting to overwhelm. The capital carrier is charging heavy plasma cannons, Tactical shouted. Target their weapon array, Chen ordered. Disable. Don't destroy. Rail systems locked. Fire. From the Indomitable's dorsal spine, a railgun tower rotated and fired a single tungsten slug the size of a cargo container. It moved so fast it left a rippling trail, space-time bowing around its path. Zarek almost didn't see it until it struck. The pirate flagship's entire forward array vanished in an explosion of shredded metal. The weapons systems went dark instantly, but the main hull remained intact. Alive. Precision, not slaughter. The pirate commander reeled, shouting orders. Chen stood, unmoved. The battle intensified. Pirate ships darted in frantic arcs, now realizing brute firepower couldn't penetrate the Titan-class Guardian. They changed tactics, aiming for weak points, vulnerable districts, or escape vectors. 3 pirate ships moving to flank, trying to hit our residential zones, Tactical warned. Zarek's blood froze. Children, families, sleeping civilians. Chen's voice sharpened. Intercept. Immediate. Point defense turrets adjusted. The Indomitable rotated, shielding vulnerable districts with its most reinforced plating. Then she issued an order Zarek didn't expect. Deploy mining drones. Zarek blinked. Mining? A hatch opened beneath the ship. Dozens of spherical drones streaked out, glowing with internal charge. Designed for asteroid excavation, they were reconfigured on the fly to intercept incoming pirate craft. They swarmed, not to kill, but to disable. Drones latched onto pirate hulls, discharging EMP bursts, severing thrusters, paralyzing systems. Ships went dark, drifting harmlessly. 12 raiders neutralized, Tactical reported. 0 hull breaches. Zarek couldn't tear his gaze away. They're still alive, he said softly. Chen nodded. We don't kill unless there's no choice. Meanwhile, the Harmony's light was still under assault. Boarding spikes had pierced its hull. Alarms blared. Distress signals scattered across multiple channels. Captain, an officer cried. They're cutting through the crew deck. Chen's jaw tightened. We end this, she said. Her eyes turned cold, not cruel, but resolutely protective. All railguns prepare precision-disabling volleys on ships currently boarding Concordat vessels. Mark engine cores, weapon mounts, and thruster arrays. Minimum lethality protocols. Yes, Captain. Fire. The bridge shook slightly as multiple railguns fired in rapid succession. Each strike hit its exact target. Engines gone. Weapons severed. Power cores overloaded just enough to shut down. In 30 seconds, the pirate ships attacking the Harmony's light were drifting helplessly. Ambassador Captain, Tactical said, no fatalities from our fire. Zarek swallowed hard. Humanity had fought a battle against 42 ships without killing a single enemy. The restraint was almost frightening. Open a channel to the pirate flagship, Chen said. Cross's face reappeared, bloodied, furious, humiliated. You should have destroyed us, he snarled. Why didn't you finish it? Chen stared back, voice steady. Because enough people have died in our history. Your crews are someone's family, and we don't slaughter families. Cross growled. You're weak. No, Chen said. We're disciplined. She cut the transmission. Minutes later, rescue shuttles launched from the Indomitable. Medical teams, human and alien, worked together in makeshift triage stations on the docking level. Concordat wounded were treated immediately. So were pirates. Zarek walked through the bay in stunned silence. He watched a human doctor mend a crushed creche limb. Another treated a pirate raider with internal bleeding. There were no questions, no hesitation. Dr. Park approached Zarek, his age-worn features calm. When Earth died, Park said softly, we learned a truth, hard and sharp. Zarek turned. What truth? That all life is precious, especially when survival hangs by a thread. Zarek watched the humans move with practiced compassion. You faced extinction, he whispered, and instead of becoming monsters, you became guardians. Park inclined his head. We chose life, every day, every moment. Zarek exhaled. I understand now, he said quietly, why your species survived. He looked out the viewport at the Titan-class vessel, still glowing from battle, still brimming with life, because you refused to let death win. Hours later, the Indomitable completed emergency repairs on Concordat ships, recharged their shields, and stabilized the wounded fleet. When Zarek finally looked toward Chen, he felt something he hadn't expected. Hope. Not merely for humanity, but for the galaxy. And as the behemoth prepared to escort the Concordat fleet back to Sanctuary, Zarich sensed the turning of history. Humanity had shown its power, but more importantly, they had shown their heart, and neither would be forgotten. The Concordat Council chamber had never been this full, nor this silent. Representatives from over 200 species filled the tiered gallery that spiraled around the central podium like concentric ripples frozen in marble. The proceedings were broadcast through quantum-linked channels across dozens of star systems, billions of beings watching together with held breath. Everyone knew today's vote would reshape galactic history. Standing at the center of it all was Captain Sarah Chen. She wore her formal United Nations Space Corps uniform, crisp and immaculate, despite the exhaustion etched subtly beneath her eyes. Her posture was straight, her expression composed. But those who looked closely saw the weight she carried, the responsibility of 50 million souls, the last torchbearers of a lost world. To her left stood Ambassador Captain Zarich, now healed from the battle's bruising chaos, scales gleaming under the chamber's ethereal lighting. He had become, over the past weeks, humanity's strongest advocate among the Concordat's ranks. High Counselor Masson rose from the central dais. His voice, resonant as cracking stone, echoed throughout the chamber. "Members of the Galactic Concordat," he declared, "today we consider humanity's petition for settlement rights and provisional alliance. We do not take this decision lightly." A low murmur rippled across the council. Meeson continued, "Testimony has been heard, evidence reviewed. Now we give final floor privileges before we vote." He gestured toward the delegation seats. "Commander Zixthar of the Kresh may speak." The insectoid commander stood abruptly, mandibles snapping sharply. The holographic broadcast zoomed in on his fierce expression. "I speak against admitting this predatory species into our alliance," Zixthar hissed. "Their vessel dwarfs our greatest warships. Their defenses unmatched. Their rail weaponry can slice capital cruisers apart. Their population, if settled, will exceed that of most member species within a generation. They are dangerous." He slammed a chitinous fist against the podium. "You all saw their ship, 50 million aboard one vessel. 12 such vessels roam the galaxy. What happens when they breed? When they build more? When they want more?" Some counselors murmured in uneasy agreement. Zixthar pointed one quivering claw directly at Sarah Chen. "We are inviting a predator into our home." He sat down abruptly, mandibles grinding. The council chamber buzzed with tension. High Counselor Mason nodded solemnly. "Counselor Shinvara of the Lumini may speak." The crystalline scientist rose smoothly, her internal light steady and warm. "Commander Zixthar speaks of what humanity might do," Shinvara said, her voice like a soft resonance of bells. "I speak of what they have done." She allowed silence to fill the chamber. "Humanity disabled 40 pirate vessels without taking a single life," she said. "Their medical staff treated our wounded and their attackers alike. Their engineers repaired our ships at risk to their own systems." Her glow intensified. "They built arcologies capable of sustaining millions through interstellar exile. They carry the memory of 4 billion dead with reverence, not rage. They choose life even when destruction would be easier." She turned toward Chen, her energy pulsing in soft admiration. "Humanity has shown us not the threat they could be, but the allies they already are." The Delph representative floated upward next, water swirling around her. "Furthermore," she added, "their survival technologies, fusion networks, biosphere engineering, stasis rotation cycles, could save countless species should catastrophe ever come for us." More murmurs, but now tinged with hope instead of fear. High Counselor Mason looked to Zarich. "You may speak." Zarich stood slowly. "Honored counselors," he began, "I walked among the humans. I saw their world ships not as weapons, but as cradles of a wounded race. I saw fields and forests carved into metal. I saw children running through artificial sunlight. I saw millions sleeping in trust." He paused, letting the gravity settle. "I saw a species that refused to let the death of their world become the death of their spirit." He stepped forward, voice ringing with conviction. We have feared humanity because of their strength, but we should respect them because of their restraint. I formally recommend granting settlement rights and alliance status. He lowered his head in a respectful bow. Then Messin turned to Sarah Chen. Captain Chen, he said, before we vote, you may address the council. Chen stepped forward. The chamber fell silent. Honored members of the Concordat, she began softly, but her voice carried with crystalline clarity. My people have spent 15 years searching for a place where our children might grow without fear, where our dead might be remembered with dignity, where we might build, not run. She gestured to the holographic displays above, where images of the indomitable and its people glowed like constellations. You see a vessel bristling with turrets. We see home. You see population clusters that alarm you. We see families who fled fire and ash. You see a weaponized ark. We see a last chance. She reached into her uniform and produced a small data chip, holding it high. This contains our most precious knowledge, she said. The complete technical schematics for Titan-class architecture, reactor matrices, agricultural deck designs, point defense algorithms, and stasis rotation protocols. A shock rippled through the chamber. Whispers, gasps. We offer all of it freely, Chen said, without condition, whether you accept us or reject us. Zixthar jolted upright in disbelief. Why would you? Chen cut him off gently. Because if sharing what we learn means even one more species survives what we endured, then those 4 billion lives we lost will have meaning. Silence. Powerful, trembling silence. Chen looked around the chamber with eyes heavy from years of burden. We don't ask for trust, only the chance to earn it. When she stepped back, even her critics had no words. High Counselor Mason straightened. We now vote. The voting process took several tense minutes. Each delegation pressed its verdict into the quantum vote lattice. The chamber's air thrummed with anticipation. Zarich stood beside Chen, watching her hands clasped behind her back. Not trembling, but close. Velmar and Sarilith watched from the guest balcony, silent anchors of support. The chamber lights dimmed. A single holographic bar rose, filling with votes. The galaxy held its breath. Mason spoke. By a vote of 147 in favor, 53 against, Chen's shoulders stiffened. The motion passes. A wave of emotion swept the chamber. The human species is hereby granted settlement rights on 3 designated Class M refuge worlds within Concordat territory. New Terra, Haven's Rest, and Sanctuary's Promise. Shinvara's internal glow brightened. Sarilith's sphere bubbled in celebration. Velmar clacked his mandibles in warm approval. Misan continued. Furthermore, humanity is granted provisional alliance status with the Galactic Concordat to be reviewed in 10 standard years. Chen exhaled and nearly collapsed as Zarich steadied her with a supportive hand. You did it, he said quietly. Your people have a home. Her voice trembled. We finally stopped running. Formalities continued for another hour. Treaty signatures, alliance markers, ceremonial affirmations. When it finally ended, Chen and Zarek stepped into the bright courtyard outside the council chamber, overlooking Sanctuary's shimmering skyline. Zarek turned to her. I have been appointed as the first Concordat ambassador to humanity, he said with a small, warm smile. It seems our partnership is only beginning. Chen returned the smile. I look forward to learning from you, Ambassador. And I from you, he replied. 3 weeks later, the Indomitable entered orbit above New Terra. If the ship had a heart, Zarich thought, it would be pounding. New Terra was breathtaking, an oasis swirling with blue oceans, green continents, cloud-wrapped mountains and shimmering forests. It was not Earth, but it was alive and welcoming. Chen stood in the observation deck, staring at the world with shimmering emotion. We made it, she whispered. The memorial faces of 4 billion dead flickered in her memory. We made it. The hibernation bays initiated mass awakening protocols. 30 million sleepers stirred. Pods opened with gentle hisses. Families reunited. tears flowing freely. Elders wept, children blinked at lights, parents clung to their loved ones. For the first time in generations, they would walk on soil, real soil. The first landing shuttle descended, carrying a group chosen not for rank or status, but for symbolism, children. When the shuttle's ramp lowered, a gentle breeze washed over them, warm, fragrant, alive. A little girl stepped forward first. She looked at Chen, eyes enormous. "Captain, the sky is real." Chen knelt. "Yes, it's real." The child took a cautious step into the grass. Her tiny foot sank into the soil. She gasped, then laughed. Behind her, hundreds of children ran into the fields, chasing each other through sunlight and wind. Parents followed, arms around each other, crying openly. Some knelt to kiss the ground. Others lifted handfuls of soil as if afraid it might vanish. Zarek watched beside Chen. "This world will be transformed," he said softly. Chen's smile was small but radiant, "and we'll protect it together." Over the next months, the first settlements rose. Hybrid human concordat engineering allowed structures to flourish rapidly. Gardens bloomed, rivers found new bridges, schools filled with laughter, hospitals opened their doors, and in the heart of the first city stood a memorial garden, a place where the names of Earth's lost billions were carved into crystalline petals donated by the Lumini. A promise from the galaxy: humanity would not be forgotten, nor would it ever be alone again. As Chen stood beneath New Terra's sky, her people bustling around her, ships landing, future rising, Dr. Park approached with quiet steps. 15 years, he murmured. 15 years since we closed Earth's skies behind us. And now, Chen said, eyes on the horizon, our story begins again. Park nodded. What of the other Titan-class vessels? Chen looked up toward the stars. They're still out there, each with millions aboard, each seeking their own futures. Zarek approached them from behind. "And you won't face those futures alone," he said. Chen took a deep breath of New Terra's air, a breath of life, of promise, of rebirth. "We survived," she whispered. "Now we learn how to live." And far above, the indomitable shone in orbit, no longer merely a refuge, but a beacon, a testament, a promise, a beginning